forgotten problems of Chernobyl victims, and the roundtable will last 1 hour, and I invite an MP, Natalia Veselova. The floor is yours. I would like to thank the presenter for this opportunity to hold this roundtable, and our event has a very symbolic name because the topic is echoed with the events of today. The topic is defenders of Ukraine, forgotten problems of Chernobyl victims. And in this difficult time for Ukraine, I would like to remind to all about the tragedy which took place 29 years ago, that Chernobyl accident, like now, our volunteers, military men, our National Guards and armed forces of Ukraine, and the same way people and military men, and they stood to defend our country, to protect her from the biggest human-made catastrophe in Ukraine. We call them liquidators or Chernobyl victims, and those people committed brave things, and many of them are not alive anymore. But at present, that category of people with benefits, it's about 2 million people, and the situation with Chernobyl PPP is power plant is similar to the country. There is a problem with the IDPs and problems of healthcare, adaptation, material support of military men and civilians. Until recently, there was a profile ministry which worked on this and which worked on the issues of Chernobyl victims, and we learn that now there is no ministry, no problem on the state level. Now Ministry of Social Policy is taking care of Chernobyl victims, but doesn't handle, is it good to meet the task? Let's look at the numbers. From amply 87 billion hryvnia, they used only 80 billion hryvnia, and 60.7 billion were returned to the budget. 226 million hryvnia from programs of social support of Chernobyl victims, and that is 8.55% from the planned expenditures for this program. What does it mean? That the state could pay 8.5% more. One more problem, and because of legal collision, those who manage funds and for medical support of oncological treatment, they underused 1.3 million hryvnia in 2 billion hryvnia. In 2014, that were planned to procure special treatment for onco patients. Why did it happen? Because those who managed money, because of a bad regulation of the Ministry of Social Policy, and they appointed a local department of social support, and people work there who know nothing about health care. They don't take responsibility. They don't procure treatment, medicine to treat oncological diseases, and those money are spent. That money is spent to buy support and preparations. Because of that, people who need medical support, free medical support, they don't get that medicine. Many problems that are not solved. I just mentioned two, the biggest, but there are many of them, and I believe that my colleagues who will speak, they will also speak about that. We invited for this briefing representatives of ministries, and we'd like to get their answers, and we hope that we'll get some constructive solutions for Chernobyl victims, and that will hope we will be able to pay attention, to draw attention of the state to this problem. I would like to give the floor to the next speaker. And Volodymyr Vdovychenko, Doctor of Ph.D., Professor, Office of Reforms in Kyiv region, administrative reform and influence on social support of people who supported because of Chernobyl accident. Let me thank you that you are with us today at this time to take responsibility and to speak about Chernobyl victims. I think it deserves a lot of attention and respect to you. Thank you. That is a very good example. And I looked at you and at your copybook, and when I see that you wrote by yourself with your pen, not your assistant was inventing something, preparing something, but you did it by yourself. That's very important, and I'm sure now that we will do something. And we should understand that we are coming closer to the 30 years anniversary, and we should pay deserved attention to issues of Chernobyl victims and to Chernobyl as such. And 30 years have passed, and in October there will be a resolution of the UN, one more. And there is a lobby and on such an organization as IAA that Chernobyl the influence is less and less. So Chernobyl accident, I would like to say that I disagree, and I want your support. We spoke to Slavutic authorities and to Chernobyl PP, to the Union of Chernobyl, and to many agencies, and to our Chernobyl committee, and Tomenko, Volodymyr, and I ask you to support activities that should be prepared for the 30 years anniversary, and there should be a working group set up. We should set it up, and my experience should be taken into consideration, and that will be done by the decree of the president, and that's very good for Ukraine. I will just give key points. Decree of the president, activities related to 30 years anniversary. You know, the construction is going on, the construction of the confinement, and I will start with that. It's very important. They will finish, or supposed to finish by 2017, and that fits those plans that were developed together with a group of management of the project. And in that international project, there are countries, donors who that participate, the US, EU, Japan, many countries participate in that international project. I don't have any doubt that they will finish the work. But all of us, we should understand that is just. Could I speak common language, like people say, and original, and this is a fig leaf on a shameful place, on shameful spot, just to focus attention. We need that building or construction of the confinement for 100 years. That is just one activity that will protect from eruptions or pollution, emission, and there is a lot of the mass, nuclear mass is very huge there. But to bring it to eco state, those 200 tons should be taken out and should be buried for 1,000 years for us. For other future generations, not to speak about us in badly. So we should speak to the world community. It's a saying, if Ukraine is left alone with that problem, and if the world leaves that problem for the future, we need to develop. We should move, and we should develop technologies to solve the problem. That's very important, and that should be a part of activities, and there should be an appeal to the UN and there must be a resolution. There must be an official statement from Ukraine. It's very important now when Ukraine is in such a situation. But we started reform. I started reforms and the psychology of reforms.
Well, in this separate talk, speaking about the reform, either we implement that reform or we find ourselves somewhere off the road. By the way, Samopomich did not vote for the transformations or amendments to be made into the constitution. This is not very good. We can get off the road. Either we are off the road or we are moving ahead, and we have to unite all our followers. In the Chernobyl, the huge problem, very important that you somehow linked this problem with the ATO zone. This is really important because if today the deputies, or ATO deputies, will just press those buttons in the Verkhovna Rada without protecting the Chernobyl, reality people in several years from now, the other generation will the same press the buttons, forgetting themselves, and the people who were involved in the Chernobyl, let's say, elimination consequences, elimination disaster, they were important. That protection of them is very important. There is an active and passive aspects of the protection. What you meant, and specifically speaking about medications and the medical drugs, I would put in this in a separate module or block. Today, 17,000 of people living in Slavutic are directly related to the Chernobyl. They're not just indirectly connected, but directly connected. Or even today they're working the medical century unit. They allocated 3 times less money than usual. Not by 15 or 30% less, but 3 times less allocations. We are talking about those who are working for the nuclear engineering sector. You know, this is not the decision, proper decision to be taken by the government. We can pass any kind of the decision. But there are alternative decisions. If we are talking about the reform, this is not the reduction by threefold of the money allocated for this, but the increase of the same magnitude. And again, speaking about the medications, I'll give you some figures. No, not a big money they allocated. 800,000 for Slavutic. Now, several thousands. You know, we have to divide those few thousand of hryvnia, and we are already we're working on different systems. So per capita is 60 hryvnia, 60.5 hryvnia. But this is not really true because somebody, I mean, the average is not always working here, because somebody will take more and nobody can say no to him because he has some, you know, problems with his disease, and other people just remain without any subsistence or subsidies at all. I'll take another few minutes because nobody but me will talk about that. We cannot keep our mouths shut. We have to say something and do something. Under any situation, Natalia Veselova, this part of medical assistance, this is absolutely objective and fair. With this targeted assistance, we have to switch over to that. And 2 more points. Well, I deem to be passive. We are talking about providing nourishment for the children in the forest area. Well, this is simplified. They just canceled that. They just, like that, like the snap of the fingers, they're starting from January 1, they just canceled that zone 4 of Chernobyl. But we have to take care of nourishment of the people. And this problem had to be taken the focus of attention because taking into consideration all the problems of business, etc., but the children suffer, genetics suffer, and this is really not a big problem for the country to provide some, to take some money from the budget and to provide the nourishment of the people. Now, active active aspect. This is very simple. We have to reorganize the zone. Today, we, like our Belarusian neighbors, and we are delaying, we are lagging behind. We have to create something like a natural preserve, but we have to use those contaminated territories in Ivankevych, Polisia, where there is no big the danger or hazard to the life of the people, but there are problems with using the land. So we can use it in a very simple way. We can construct the industrial technoparks and to create necessary terms and conditions for attracting investments to those territories, the land. That would be great, a huge area. Everything is there, of course, using some of the preferences which will be definitely paid back. In Slovutich is a very interesting zone. Just one example, those, let's say, the money which come from the subject of the special economic zone, which today, since the day of implementing this project, they I mean the contributions to different budgets, they are bigger 3.5 times today, and they grow day in, day out. And they were issue some preferences, and those preferences are really required to create the technoparks in high-tech, let's say, jobs, which mean a big salary, and we have to give people the chance to really rehabilitate those territories and so on, for this place to be used for residents. Thank you very much for your attention. The floor is given to Natalia Veselova. Just a short comment for all those who are going to speak. Unfortunately, our organizers gave us only 1 hour instead of 2 hours, so my request, please, to concentrate, and I believe you treat that with understanding, I mean, my short remark. The floor is given to all Ukrainian public organization, the All Ukrainian Association of Chernobyl Veterans. The floor is given to Mr. Volodymyr Proskurin. The social protection of the citizens suffered as a result of the Chernobyl disaster. Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. I would like to extend my thanks to the organizers of this event for the attention paid to us, Chernobyl people. Unfortunately, of late, we are not really very much, let's say, swimming this kind of attention, not on the part of the deputies or anybody else. The more so, more pleasant is to have this attention today. The Constitution of Ukraine reads that Ukraine is a legal and democratic state. The Chernobyl disaster was recognized as a global scale disaster, and the state budget and the state actually took all the necessary aspects, responsibility for eliminating this disaster. Unfortunately, late we see that the attention towards this topic, towards the Chernobyl disaster and its consequences, and the people who were involved in eliminating the consequences, unfortunately, this attention subsided, and the new Prime Minister who replaced the former Prime Minister who never paid any attention to Chernobyl people, but they ignored, the new one also ignores all those people, all those problems. I'm talking about now the Minister of Social Policy, of course, not the Prime Minister. And when Tygibka was the Minister of Social Policy, Tygibka, he actually spent a lot of time discussing all the problems. The same can be said about the former minister Natalia Veselova. But speaking about the present, the nowadays minister, Mr. Tarasenko, we just by chance we managed to grab him by the hand, and he tries to avoid us. The Chernobyl disaster is really of the planetary or global scale disaster. And the day when it took place, there was no legal basis which could actually establish the procedure of those, the status of those who were involved in let's say, eliminating the consequence of this disaster, because nobody could even think that this could happen. First of all, we are talking about the soldiers. We tell them partisans or the guerrillas who were mobilized to eliminate the consequences of the Chernobyl and PP disaster, especially those who were involved in this task for the first months. And we can read in their documents, he, let's say, First Lieutenant Petrenko with 20 soldiers is sent to the Chernobyl area. Today, First Lieutenant Petrenko has all the necessary documents, and he is paid the respective pension, but those, let's say, anonymous 20 soldiers, they have nothing because their names were not even mentioned. But actually, if there is a will, they can establish the names of those soldiers if they spend some time in their archives. This is just one example, since there are a galore of such examples. If you're talking about the information to be given for the calculation of the pension of the respective guys, are issued by the enterprises who send them to eliminate the consequences of Chernobyl and PP in those days. But many of those companies or enterprises are not existent today, and there is nowhere or nobody who can issue the necessary document. According to the resolution of the ministry, actually there is some way how to calculate to issue such documents. And the mechanism which is used for the Chernobyl people is absolutely non-efficient. And we would like to request to ask the ministry, and here we are the representatives and the officials who can convey this message of ours to the Minister of Social Policy and further on. We ask to establish an interdepartmental committee, a commission which could take a comprehensive shoulder the responsibility for a comprehensive resolution of this problem. So such people as I mentioned, First Lieutenant Petrenko and 20 soldiers. So we need those people because almost 30 years, people just colliding their heads with the wall, and they said that we cannot do anything. Yes, there was such a big disaster, and maybe the officials even did not know how to act in those days, but nevertheless, this is not the fault of the people who suffered. This is their grief and the problem. When the state has to do something to support them. Today, there are some budgetary money, let's say, allocated to the medical institutions, but they cannot actually buy or purchase necessary medications because the Ministry of Health establishes indicative prices higher than those indicative prices. Nobody can buy anything. The exchange rate changed, the prices went up, but the indicative prices remained at the same level. So if we do not resolve this problem promptly, we'll face such a situation when this money will be just taken away or used for the next fiscal year. Even today it's not enough. I mean, there's some money allocated. Well, we can talk about that only during such a press conference because unfortunately we cannot reach the government people. I'm not going to speak any longer, but I would like to ask those persons who are present here today and represent the Minister of Social Policy to convey to them this request of ours, and also the representative of the Cabinet of Ministers, the Minister of Social Policy, that we still ask him to find time to talk to us. Thank you. And on the eve of the 29th anniversary of Chernobyl and PP disaster, the liquidators of the people who were involved in elimination of the consequences of the disasters, they were deprived of any kind of the additional, let's say, subsidies or some money for which they could buy some medications and drugs. They were deprived of the resort and sanitary, let's say, treatment. The children, sick children who had to move to the, let's say, to move to some of the such medical institutions outside of their place of residence, they were deprived of the money, travel expenses. The same story it could be said about other people, and also they introduced some taxes for the Chernobyl pensions, 30%. And and today our government officials cannot do not know what to do, and they introduce amendments to the law on Chernobyl. Of course, they are not good for the people, Chernobyl-related people. We do request, and send a request to the Minister of Social Policy to bring ourselves to order, especially if we are talking about the court rulings or decisions, because we have more than 2,000, let's say, suits sitting today with the courts, and 1.5 billion hryvnia which had to be paid to the Chernobyl-related people by the decision decision. There is no legal basis today. The state allocates some miserable sums of money, but there is no decision of the court on that subject matter. And unfortunately, people win in the court proceedings. They have the ruling of the court actually in their hands, but the respective public service cannot pay that money because there is no procedure for this money to be paid today. So we again approach the Minister of Social Policy to stop humiliation of the people from Chernobyl. Eliminators, they are heroes, they are, let's say, defenders of our motherland. If you would like to bring up today and educate today the new generation on the basis, let's say, of patriotism, what kind of patriotism can we talk about if today we have such an attitude to the Chernobyl heroes, to those liquidators, eliminators who in due time actually saved Ukraine and half of Europe from the Chernobyl disaster. Europe remembers about Chernobyl, about the people who were taking care of elimination of the consequences of the disaster. But our government, the cabinet ministers of Mr. Yatsenyuk, for some reason forgot about that. And that there are people who have and deserve to be remembered. So I would like to give the floor to the representative of the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Mr. Sergei Kocherenko, regarding the social protection of the servicemen who took part in the elimination of Chernobyl disaster consequences, who suffered as a consequence of that disaster. Ms. Kocherenko has a huge experience of dealing with Chernobyl-related people. Some time ago, we were cooperating with him rather fruitfully. With his assistance, we introduced amendments into the existing law, which, improves to some extent the situation with the Chernobyl people. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hold the position of the Chief of the Department of Social Policy and the Department of Social Humanitarian Policy at the Ministry of Defense. How MOD participates in social protection of people who suffered because of Chernobyl accident and participants in liquidation of that accident. According to regulation on the Ministry of Social Policy, all the tasks in the hands of that ministry. But MOD, as a stakeholder, always participates in the development of laws related to social protection of that category of people. Two main directions how we work with Chernobyl people. Representatives of MOD, they participate in the work of the Commission, which works at the Ministry of Social Policy, and we consider issues related to the status of participant of liquidation of Chernobyl accident. The Ministry MOD has a commission which is responsible for considering disputes related to financial support, salary of military men, those who work in, those who participated in liquidation of Chernobyl accident. The representatives of MOD participates in the commission, which at the Ministry of Social Policy. Next stage. The fact of personal participation of military men in liquidation of Chernobyl accident, and there is an archive of MOD and with its branches. Those are main activities. In liquidation of Chernobyl accident, about 354 military units participated in that. From all forces we had in the ministry, in all law enforcement bodies of the former Soviet Union. Lying spot of participation in liquidation of Chernobyl accident belongs to Trans-Carpathian and Kyiv military district, and those military units were those who at the core of liquidation of Chernobyl accident. In addition to that, the main contingent that was called to military units was mobilized from regions of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic at that time. What are the problems? What are the issues of Chernobyl veterans? And first of all, they ask assistance, and in providing evidence in participation in liquidation of the accident. Archive and its branches did not receive all the documents from military units that were in Trans-Carpathia, Kyiv, and Odessa military districts, and the reasons are not known. Documents of 18 military units, Trans-Carpathian military district in Kyiv, and 8 and 7. Destroyed because of the big level of pollution. That's why it's practically impossible to provide assistance to these people. But we should consider this. After military assemblies, all military men received a document on the participation liquidation of Chernobyl accident, and with days and payment for the work according in different dangerous areas. Those documents played a positive role after they were provided to financial bodies, and on the basis of which they received physical support. But such documents were not documents for constant documents in 3 years. They were in financial bodies, and after that they were destroyed. According to the procedures, nobody thought from the very beginning of about some status, about social assistance, guarantees, benefits, etc. But in time has passed, and on the basis of the law of Ukrainian social support of people who participated in liquidation of consequences of Chernobyl accident, you had to prove, first of all, that you participated in that. Why? Because that gives you status, and then you can receive a pension as a disabled person. And this one more factor, it's reducing pension age in order to get a state pension for people who suffered because of Chernobyl accident. And 10, 8, and 5. Professionals understand what I am talking about. When I held the position in the Ministry of Social Policy, we made analysis, and we understand that we were late with solving this problem probably late 8 to 10 years, because the average age of mobilized was 25-35 years, at 25-30 years, and now they all go to pension funds and they wanted to get pensions. So now this issue is the most important, etc. As to the size of pensions of those who participate in liquidation and pension for this disabled, and at that time there was not just a system to pay for work. But what systems armed forces had? All documents were developed by the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Ukraine, by the government of USSR, with the participation of trade unions, and then acts of USSR, Ukrainian Socialist Republic. They regulated that issue. The majority of military units, except Ministry of Machine Building and Ministry of Atomic Energy, which had military units of construction people. In those 15 units, military units, they had quite a just, absolutely just system of payment. You do the work for everyone. They had an account, and for that account money came according to the work done. For the rest, they didn't use not just appraisal. They connected with the index of related to the main job, to the salary, the main source. So for the same work, for the same period, those who worked at one transportation company, for example, Gas 53, they had a tariff 153 who worked on Kamazes, etc. They had the tariff was one ruble, 1 carbonets. So somebody received 500, and the other one received 1500. This calculations are taken from those sums. So the mine we are trying to go around was placed at that, principles of fiscal support and principles of paying salaries. So that Article 64, which identifies a minimal size to those who participated in liquidation and who suffered 8.10.8.6. At that time it should play, and now should play, the main stabilizing factor. That's it. My time is over. Thank you. I invite Natalia Veselova, and she will speak about the main issues about military men. Please. We have 15 minutes until the end, so be as brief as possible. I would like to draw your attention to the common soldier. It doesn't matter how we call events in Ukraine. That's World War II, Afghanistan, Chernobyl, or ITO. There will be always a common soldier who comes to assist and who is a defender of the motherland. And at that time, those were, as we call them, guerrillas and soldiers, conscripts and soldiers Chernobyl. And in Chernobyl, they didn't see the enemy. They only had the smell of here's a problem we have now in military unit 34-102, and they started their work. That was May, and June 1986 was sent to Tostilis station, and there were 8 days on the station, and they would learn cement. And they lived in train cars. So they have to prove that they were there, or they did that work, because there is a list of, but not names. Battalion 73 from they worked a minute and a half, and since April didn't have any documents. They have to prove they did their work. Military unit 1850s, 57, 56, they lived in Chernobyl, and they were responsible for disactivation, degazation of Chernobyl and Pripyat. They had to prove that they participated in that. Conscripts, and recently one person before taking pension, he cannot do it because he had to prove according to the order he routed Chernobyl. But now they cannot decide whether he was there or not. And so here's the proposal, and I would like to ask the government Ministry of Social Policy, please create a committee to do the expert decision on military units that will ask you, and they say 34, 102, etc. Who participated in that, and made the list of the people who were there, and accepted the fact of that they did that work according to all the laws that were at that time when they did that work. I invite Pogrebnyak Larissa Mykolayevna from Lubny, Veterans of Chernobyl NGO. I would like to join all presenters, all panelists yes, Chernobyl issue is big. I would like to speak to the government and also to the ministry. You know that 2013 and 2014 people came to Maidan for the most important, for the main, the easiest, so Europe or European Union. That's the rule of law. And I would like that rule of law, which must be wish it to take place, and all of that includes all the issues and pensions, the issue of liquidators, who are conscripts, and all the rest of the issues that were mentioned here that I would like to finish. That the rule of law is über alles. Thank you.
The All Union Association of the Chernobyl Veterans of the City of Kyiv, the pension support for servicemen. I would like to say that today the deputy is going to have such a briefing. Neither minister nor the deputies ministers are present here. It's just sent here by the head of the department. Do they really believe that they're going to resolve this such problems? As it's does. They gave the command and do nothing. They do not remember that they sent soldiers to the swamp with 12 rubles salary. Can you imagine that? At the same time, Mr. Kravchenko was apt to say that there was the only the alternative 7610, which could stabilize the situation. Now our Prime Minister, who during Maidan promised that he would defend everybody and the interests. Now they actually canceled the rule of law, the laws. One more thing. Last year we spent 6 billion hryvnia. Last year I brought the PK of the people. We had to resolve the problems faced by the disabled persons. We had only 2.2 billion. Why the Ministry of Social Policy did not insist that they had to pay out of those 6 billion, 2 billion. So it's kind of subversive actions of the part of the cabinet ministers who actually make people be against the powers that be. People do not want to fight in the ATO zone. How they can fight there? They say the Chernobyl people actually sacrificed their health in Chernobyl during Chernobyl disaster. In what the situation they find themselves now. So there is a resolution adopted which regulates the widows of those who were killed in the ATO zone. If the total aggregate income is 1,750 hryvnia, they're not actually eligible to the privileges. How can they deprive the people who were killed of their families of such a status? This is, something inconceivable. And there are a lot of people in Donetsk and Lugansk region who actually support the new authorities in theirs, and they actually play into their hands. So the cabinet ministers today does everything in order to this war continues in the east of Ukraine. Mr. Proskurin, you have the floor. Recently, the Secretariat of the Cabinet Ministers had a discussion about the novelties in order to provide the privileges depending on the income per capita in the family, for each member of the family. I understand that the organizers of this video conference planned that we had such a discussion with the public, with broad public. I would like to say that in Kharkov we had the public involved, but in the rest of the cities, well, mainly there were some managers of some of the departments of social protection, etc., etc. So what's the idea? 1,710 hryvnia, what the officials used to call privileges. So they do provide some subsistences if the aggregate, let's say, income is less than 1,710 hryvnia. Otherwise, they are not actually have the right to get that assistance. And somebody said it's only one step. Some of the categories of the people have been already deprived those privileges, and we try to protect the rights of the veterans of Chernobyl to the extent that Ukraine is a social and legal state. Article 22 of the Constitution prohibits to narrow or to reduce the existing rights, and we interpret the privileges of prosecutors, and I'm sorry, speak about the deputies, they still have something left, and the ministers, this 1,710 hryvnia, Mr. Tsenyuk maybe spends every morning for coffee. Our prime minister actually is distanciated himself from people. Maybe somebody will remind him soon that he has to think about people. Let him try just to live on this miserable amount of money, 1,710. Let him think how much the medications cost in the daily life. And sometimes they go to the hospital and they do not have the medications either, because there are those low indicative prices. So we try to do our utmost, but we cannot do anything. So this is the government we have. Maybe the president of Ukraine has to be put into the know about this situation. Maybe he can respond to that. Privileges and other things is kind of what we inherited from the USSR. There must be a different situation when they have to somehow to compensate for the harm done to the health of those people. And those people have to get the decent remuneration, compensation monetary for the damage done to their health. In the Chernobyl can pay 1,000 for some kind of medication if the average pension is about 3,000 hryvnia. The floor is given to Olga Tarasenko. She's going to speak about the sanitary and the spa and resort assistance to Chernobyl people. We have only 5 minutes left. Okay, I will try to attack this problem from 3 different aspects. They said that the Constitution provided the rights and the responsibility not to change for the worse the status and the privileges of those people. But we have what we have already after the latest resolution, when they actually decreased those privileges and necessary conditions which were provided to those who suffered as a result of the Chernobyl disaster. Only they have the rehabilitation of the health of Chernobyl, the first group, and children, disabled persons. On the other hand, we are talking about those who really suffered themselves. Now the cabinet ministers passed the resolution that those people have to, by 15th of October, send in their applications by the tenders and the vouchers to the resort places and the spas. They usually issued starting from midsummer. Can you imagine almost 9 months it takes for the process per se associated with the rehabilitation of health? And the fact that you're talking about nosology has to receive this kind of resort or spa treatment, but this is not the decision made by the doctors, physicians, by the bodies of executive power, because today, this year, do not provide a centralized procedure for the tender. Then the spas and resort institutions reject or refuse to participate in those tenders because the base prices for the calculation for this kind of treatment is equal to the minimum price. Minimum price is 230 hryvnia. It's just the means the nourishment, let's say accommodation and treatment. The treatment, the quality, and the efficacy of treatment. This is something which has to be provided to the Chernobyl people because their health changes for the worse year in, year out, and also the state of the children, disabled persons is also becoming worse and worse, and we can't provide for this money high quality treatment. That's why the spas decided that they provide the minimum necessary services and they do not guarantee the quality because it's impossible for this money. Also, they tender procurements of the social Minister of Social Policy. In those spas which belong to this ministry in Truskovets and Odessa. Speaking about Odessa's spa, which is named Salute, the apples must be procured for 325,000. You know, this we are talking about Odessa, where there is a lot of apples and not for this 20 grivен per kilo, because the tenders are announced in April or March. Why I'm talking about that? Because there must be equality of each and every one before law, and the subjects of the economy have to have the equal possibilities, opportunities, including the issue of rehabilitation of the health of those who suffered as a result of the Chernobyl disaster. But we create the preferences for their own spas and resort areas, and if today the ministry demonstrated the calculation of the vouchers in their own spas, then maybe many spas would give their consent to participate in those centers and provide high quality assistance. Do you have any statistics in the Ministry of Social Policy how many regions started to provide this health rehabilitation? The matter is that unfortunately they don't give me the statistics in the ministry. Unfortunately, monitoring which has to take place before the 5th of each month. Well, the matter is that today we have not had tenders in some of the tenders for the same simple reasons that they didn't have a number of the participants or bidders. The floor is given to Natalia Veselova, and then we'll switch over to the Q&A session. In the end of our briefing, I would like to thank the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center for the platform given to us to discuss this problem. I hope that we managed to attract attention, to draw attention, to this problem on the public at large and our government. I would like to thank Mr. Kravchenko, the only representative of the cabinet ministers who agreed to come here and provide some of the explanations. I believe that the Minister of Social Policy has to pay the proper attention and to understand that they will not have a chance just to keep quiet and sit on their hands. We have to resolve those problems, otherwise they threaten, they can't bring about the social explosion. Now we have time only for one very brief question. I have actually two questions, but very short ones. Number one, looking at the tables, well, at least there must be 4 minimum persons. The Minister of Ecology, Minister of Health, and the Minister of Social Policy, etc., where they are. But now they prepared the amendments to be introduced to the law on Chernobyl, and they're going to further reduce the privileges for Chernobyl-related people. I do not understand what will be left. So what would be the response of people's deputies and the, let's say, public organizations to such a situation? Maybe I'll answer. Thank you very much for your questions, but unfortunately, all the ministries which you mentioned, we actually invited them to join us here. We personally called the Minister of Social Policy, we called Deputy Minister of Social Policy. Unfortunately, perhaps they have more urgent matters than the problems of the Chernobyl people health or problems with the legislation. Yes, today they introduced amendments in the Chernobyl law. I read the draft law. They're going to reduce privileges, compensations, the housing, which is absolutely inadmissible because there are some Chernobyl member families who live 3 or 4 people, families together, and they suffer from serious disasters, including ecological and all the disasters associated with Chernobyl disasters. So unfortunately, the situation is terrible, and there is no response on the part of the government. Perhaps they put themselves to task to eliminate the eliminators, so to say, Chernobyl liquidators. Unfortunately, we are run out of time. Thank you for